Bueno, comencem. Bona tarda, benvinguts. Benvinguts al nostre col·legi. Gràcies per venir. Dijous a la tarda. Avui presentem el segon acte dintre del mateix format. Presentem el segon Duel, Architectural Heritage Intervention, d'intervenció amb el patrimoni arquitectònic. Welcome to our House of Architects. Today we present you the second edition of the Duel of Architectural Heritage Intervention. And continuaré en anglès, referència amb els nostres convidats. Si algú té problemes, doncs aniré fent traduccions de tant en tant. D'acord. No, anirem fent. So, the event is organized in two parts. First, we're going to make the duel. And the duel, it's a specific kind of conference, specific kind of talk that we started developing last year. La primera part de l'acte d'avui serà el que heu vingut a veure, la conferència, amb aquest model, amb aquesta modalitat que realitzem des de l'any passat de Duel. And the second part is going to be the presentation of the catalog of the fifth edition of the Award of Heritage Intervention, the European Award. Now we are just finished, and we are preparing the fall of the act of the presentation of the sixth edition, but obviously the catalog comes 2 years later. Com deia, la segona part de l'acte serà la presentació del catàleg de la 5ª edició del Premi Europeu d'Intervenció en Patrimoni, que estem a punt de fallar, que tindrem l'acte el dia 1, i, evidentment, el catàleg el presentem 2 anys més tard, el temps que triguem a preparar-ho. El Marc el presentarà després. This event it's kept in the framework of the model festivals d'arquitectures, in which we participate every year. It's the 6th year we participate in, I guess, yes. L'acte s'inclou dintre del paraigües del model Festival d'Arquitectures i és la 6ª vegada que participem i l'organitzem des del col·legi, des de la plataforma AHI, Architectural Heritage Intervention. So, we are honored to have the presence of Víctor Horta, who is promoted of the Foundation Víctor Horta in Brussels, and Emili Masferrer, director of Gaudí's Casa Vicens here in Barcelona. And they're going to be the two duelists this evening. The idea of the conference, the idea of our duel, is to learn to get a deeper view of monuments that we already know, that we know as well. Does anybody do fencing here? Practice fencing? Sword fighting? No? None? Okay, I do. I do. And as I told you last year, fencing is a liar's game. When we do fencing, we show as we were doing something that we want to trick, which we want to trick our opposite. But in fact, we're doing many things that we don't show you. So that's the idea. The idea is we want to promote a combat, nice combat, knight's combat, and ladies' combat, obviously. But the idea is to try to make you show us what you are hiding normally. So last year, we talked about strategy and tactique, which we can translate into method and intervention. But this year, we're going to go farther on in what lays behind the interventions. and we're going to talk about management. So we're going to talk about everything that's behind or beside the intervention and everything that makes it possible to develop the strategies that allows us to win in our daily heritage preservation combats. Parlava de l'esgrima, no? I feia una espècie de metàfora entre un esport que és un esport de mentiders, és un esport amb el que sempre intentem fer com si féssim coses que en realitat no fem i mostrar o intentar amagar les coses que realment estem fent, no? De tal manera que podem sempre agafar el nostre contrincant en fals. I el resultat és que no sempre s'explicita el que realment s'està fent. L'any passat, amb el primer duel, vam parlar d'estratègia, vam parlar de tècnica, que seria metodologia i intervenció, traduït al nostre món del patrimoni. Enguany anirem una mica més lluny i intentarem averiguar les coses que estan una mica més darrere o al costat de la pràctica de la intervenció patrimonial i parlarem de... Ara em surt management en català. Parlarem de gestió, moltes gràcies, i parlarem de la gestió que permet gaudir d'aquests monuments i permet intervenir en aquests monuments. How it's going to work? The idea is the two opposants going to explain, going to show us, as they want, the things they do during 15, 20 minutes each one. And then they're going to be able to ask 3 questions, short questions, to its opposite in order to try to make him or her show what actually lays behind the nice images we're going to see. La dinàmica del duel funciona amb una primera part amb la que els dos oposants, els dos duelistes, explicaran els seus edificis, explicaran quina és la seva tasca dintre dels seus edificis, però per intentar veure, per intentar que expliquin realment el que volem que expliquin, cadascun farà a l'altre 3 preguntes curtes, que ens permetran aprofundir en quina és realment la seva feina, la seva tasca. Through these 3 questions, we're going to be moderated, we're going to be judged by our referee, Joan Olona, Arquitectònic, and one of the duelists of last year. He's still alive, so it's going to work. I el nostre àrbitre per aquesta fase de combat serà el Joan Olona, arquitecte tècnic, que va ser un dels 2 duelistes de l'any passat. So let's start. I propose you to be first, Nupur, and en garde, prêt, allez.
Thank you. Is it on? Everybody can hear me? Yes. So first of all, I would like to say namaskar, because that's how we greet in India. And I'm from India. My name is Nupur Tron. I want to thank Juan, AHI, and the whole team behind for inviting me. I'm most humbled to share the stage with all of you. And for me, honestly, I think it's not really a debate, but it's a passionate story that we are telling to each other and sharing with all of you. So my story is quite unique. I'm going to walk you through so you understand where I come from and why this project is so close to me. It's my second baby after my 9-year-old daughter. And this is a small presentation just to show you that I started my career very young. I say that heritage is in our DNA. It started since I was born. Because in India, where I'm from, my dad is from Rajasthan, my mother is from Calcutta. It is something natural. We see restoration, preservation all the time on a daily basis. And I left India when I was 16 because I wanted to see the world and create my own path. And in India, it's not easy for girls, for women, because everything is decided for us the moment we are born. And in our family, which is very traditional, it was already decided I was going to get married and, everything was all set for me. But I had other plans and I wanted to travel. I was like a Mowgli, And my parents were not very happy, but I think now they are, because I've come a long way and my story is self-made. Sometimes people think that, everything has been spoon-fed for me. It's the opposite. I carved my path and my destiny with my bare hands, with a lot of dream and passion in my heart. And that is a message I want to give to all the youth and the younger generation, that follow your passion. I know it's important. You have pressure, peer pressure from society, from parents, but it's very important to do what you love, because otherwise, what's the point? And I hope with this presentation, it's going to make you think a little bit deeper. So I started my brand, Nupur Paris, in Paris, which is a high-end jewelry brand. And this was 20 years ago. And so heritage and excellence of craftsmanship has been there for many generations. And for me, it's very important that to interpret that, it's like in my DNA, whenever I even created the jewelry. For example, this is a ring which is called Navratna in Sanskrit, which is 9 gemstones. So seeing with everything is related with energy of cosmos and nature, which is a DNA of Art Nouveau. So it's like my life has come a full circle, and the pieces that I was creating and the story that I was bringing of India to Europe, it resonates perfectly today. They say that you can take the girl out of India, but not India out of the girl. And that really is my story. So here I am, a little girl with my mom and my ex-belle-mère, who was the muse of my brand, Nupur Paris. And I was already designing animals which are very emblematic in Art Nouveau, the dragonfly, but not knowing anything about Art Nouveau. And what is very important also for me is to transmit this to my daughter. So it's like, for me, when I was growing up in India and I was seeing restoration, it seems normal, And whereas today people are so scared of buying a heritage classified building because the Bible that comes with it of do's and don'ts. So I think it's very important also to know what you're getting into. My story is a story of heart and passion. It's not a story of numbers or Excel sheet. Because if it was that, probably I would have never bought the house. And it's really the house that found me, because it was a sleeping beauty for over a century, and it was for sale for over 20 years, and nobody was interested in buying this because I think the house and the ex-owner chose who she wanted to sell the house. And it's funny, it was by complete accident that I met her. And we talked about India for hours, and she said, "This house is for you." I said, "Are you mad?" No way, because, this is a huge undertaking, and I don't know if I can afford it. And she said, "Think about it. You make me an offer, and I'll think for 2 days." And I was like, if I'm going to be mad, I won't be mad for more than 2 days. And I made her an offer, and rest is history. Because she said before dying, her husband has this, wish that to transmit this house to somebody who will restore, preserve, and share this heritage for generations to come. So it's a very particular condition, and that's why she was waiting for the right owner, and that's why it was in the market for all these years. The philosophy of the foundation is restoration, preservation, and sharing. Soon as I bought it, which is 6 years ago, in 2017, I had no idea the dilemma of working with a site, with the demure, which is classified. So it was a constant tango with the bureaucracy at its best. But my architect, I'm in the best hand, Francis Metzger, and thanks to him, I did also my executive master's in restoration and architecture. So it helps me to run. It gives me the vocabulary and grammar to run this foundation, which is very important, because houses like this were not made to be museums. These are homes that you have to live. And they have their character, they are organic, they are living, it's fragile like us, human. It needs love and care. And when I stepped into the house for the first time, it was as if it was crying, save me, help me. It was really in a very bad state. I started the foundation immediately because I knew that it is a very important part of the history and legacy of the history of Art Nouveau and Belgium. It needs to be shared. It cannot be a sleeping beauty only for the owner. And when I bought the house, I also bought with the furniture. There are about 300 pieces of furniture. Some I acquired through the antique market, and some through the dealers, some through auctions. But most of the furniture was intact. It was there. So imagine all these pieces of furniture that is almost borderline, because if I didn't buy it in a year, it would have probably be in a very bad state and you couldn't restore it. So it was not just restoring the bricks and the stone, but the soul of the house. And we Indians, we are very spiritual. House is a temple. It's a living entity. It's organic. And in India, we have this word, vatsu art, which is in Sanskrit, meaning you align yourself with the energy of latitudes and longitudes of stars, the cosmos, the nature, the sun and the moon, like feng shui. And I think Horta knew about these energy, organic elements that unites us on a daily basis with the cosmos, with the nature. So it's like a living entity. It's like a living concerto, this house for me. And also then I started to dig into the history of Maurice Frison, who he is, what did he do? And it's amazing that these archives were getting, all these dust for years and nobody knew. So when I invited Mr. Didier Render with his wife, he was like, an Indian is telling me the history of my country. And I said, well, it's a brand new country, Belgium. But it's incredible that it has so much of richness of excellence of craftsmanship that is not known to the world. When I bought the house, I didn't know Horta, but I knew Gaudí, I knew Guimard. So I felt that there is really work to do, that we need to sensibilize not only the older, but the younger generation. And that's why I created the foundation, to share the story with primary, secondary school, university, École des Beaux-Arts, so that because the story has something very unique between East and West, the missing link, India. And we'll come to that. So Horta, as we know, is a national identity of Belgium. He was one of the founding father of Art Nouveau. Even his face was on the note of Belgium franc. So it's incredible that how much he identified Belgium, and yet in 70s, 80s, and up till 90s, people didn't like Art Nouveau. And right across from my house, I live in Sablon, which is the historical city center of Brussels. There used to be Maison du Peuple, which was demolished. It's like equivalent of Le Beau Marché in Paris, which was built by Gustave Eiffel. And it was a place which was for, people to come together, because going back to the story of Maurice Frison, he was somebody very progressive. He was a social and civil reformer of Belgium in the end of the 19th century. He was part of the Lodge Philanthrope, and he was a lawyer of the court of Belgium. So it's thanks to him that he never gets the credit that Horta really flourished, because Maison Frison was the prototype house for Horta to show to all his clients like Van het Velde, Tassel, Solway, Maxale. And these are houses that Horta built one after the other, showing everything that he was capable of, thanks to Maurice Frison. Now, why him? What did he find special in Horta? It's a unique, funny story, because he defended Horta in the case of Geoff Lambeau for the Pavillon du Passion. And Horta was running very late, and Geoff Lambeau was not happy, and Frison took the dossier, and he won the case for him, and hence a friendship for 45 years flourished. And he was also the witness for his second wedding for Horta. And he brought Horta into the Lodge Philanthrope. So really taking him under his wing, and he was also the guy behind the project of Hôpital Brookman in Brussels. And instead of going through a concours of architect, he said to the mairie and to everybody, You got to take this guy. This is your guy. And so he did a lot for the career of Horta in the beginning, and rest we see is history. These are some of the old pictures of the house with the furniture. So it's been very well archived, and that is fantastic with Horta. This was early work. It was a prototype house. So you can see on the ceiling there are frescoes. You can see the lustre, all the chandeliers, and you can see even the furniture. It's really a time capsule of 19th century. I'm going to now take you through my pair of eyes to show you why this house reminds me that I'm back home in India. We never talked about India in Art Nouveau. We coined the word, it's eclectic, it's exotic. We talked about Japanese, but never India. Well, India exists for a very long time. And how is that possible that we never mentioned India in Art Nouveau? Well, let's not forget, 19th century was a century of colonization. A lot of resources were looted from all across the world. They were brought into the heart of Europe, and there were a lot of beautiful universal expositions, the Davos and the Economic Forum of today, if we can say that. And this is where like-minded people are meeting, architects, explorers, scientists, researchers, and we see a lot of goods coming from India in the first Universal Exposition in Crystal Palace, 1852. And you see the loot of India. Even the word loot is a Hindi word. Veranda is a Hindi word. Pyjama is a Hindi word. But in Europe, we don't know that because we don't study anything about India. So there is a disconnection. Whereas in India, we study the world history, so we have an idea of what happened where, from the Battle of Waterloo to the Civil Rights Movement. And it's important that, we put the story and the narrative and dig deeper because India has been colonized for over 1,200 years. The Ottoman, the Mughals, the Dutch, the British, the Portuguese, everybody came to India because we have the biggest coastline for trade and commerce. And until the 18th century, India with China was biggest in textiles, spices. It was called the golden bird. In Hindi, we say, Sone ki chiriya. And for me, it was a revelation. I was like, I'm back home. This is India. The symbols that are in this house, which we will see, are strikingly similar to what we see in Rajasthan, which is a region of my dad. And here you can see the frescoes, the colors. I mean, once you start, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You put it all together and you see, my God, it's a revelation. I had never seen something like this before. And decoration and the concept of l'art total, total art, exist in India for centuries. Because if you see palaces, everything is made to measure, from the carpet to the utensils, to the door handles, to the furniture. And this movement came to Europe much later, and it was called l'art nouveau. But in India, it's not at all nouveau. It's very old. And also what is striking is, you could say, is this Andalusia, or this is Turkey, or this is Venice, but this is Rajasthan. And also the story of stonecutters and the Freemason travel with Sufism. So I have a friend who has written a beautiful book on the tile and stonecutters with Sufi movement going from India to south of Spain and carrying the same excellence of craftsmanship with them. So here you can see this is very, Oriental, this is very Indian, and again, it's a very Ottoman shape. This is not at all Occidental, and this was like, for me, I'm home. And the house was not like this when I bought, so there's a lot of work that went. In India, you have palaces again showing, the glass work. You can see there were a lot of artists that came from Austria, from Belgium, and who were commissioned to work with the Maharajas to furnish these beautiful palaces which were being built from 17th, 18th, 19th century. And you can see the colored glasses, which is very famous in Belgium. They're very good. And then you can see also the same in the Frison house. This is the initial of Frison. In the middle, you can see the M sign and the 2F, which is reversed. Everything was completely white when I bought the house. So I had no idea what fresco is underneath the 12 layers of paint. And what is amazing, the logo of the foundation, without seeing this, it's exactly the same that I designed myself without knowing what is underneath the fresco. So it's like, it's amazing that I feel as if I'm part of the walls and the fresco and everything, because during COVID, I scraped off the whole house myself. So you have to be mad a little bit and also take the challenge and don't be scared. Because many times, we feel it's a protected house. They're going to come like a ton of bricks on my head. And you feel, and that's the reason people don't buy classified buildings, because they are like, I want to have a peaceful life. But for me, it was really a voice inside that, this is my mission. And it has reincarnated my own personal life. So here you can see Shiva, who's a god of destruction, Mahesh, and the trident that he holds, the cobra he wears around his neck. And snake in our mythology is not evil, like it is in the Western world. It's an evil animal. In India, we say, who are we to judge which animal is good and which animal is bad? We are all children of Gaia, and we all have a place in this planet, which is the philosophy of Buddhism. And I think these spiritual elements really made all these thinkers think deep into whatever work they were doing. And that's why you see also the same exact shape in all of Winter Garden of the Frison house. So what does it mean, the trident? It's Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, the creation, the preservation, and destruction, the circle of cosmos. But without knowing the story of India, it's impossible to connect the dots. And then behind you see the lotus flower, the flower of knowledge and purity and intelligence. And this technique also is something that we use in the textile. It's called ombre effect, light to dark, dark to light. And Horta was an architect of light. He was looking for light. And we in Rajasthan, especially the Rajput clan, we say we are children of the sun, because without the sun, there is no life. And it's amazing that the whole staircase, the spine of the house, is bathed with light. And you feel, I have spent hours from morning, dawn to dusk, really feeling like, how does it feel? Because it seems like the house becomes very organic. And you feel with the light that you are connected to some sort of cosmic energy, and which is very powerful in this house. So here, if you see carefully, in each corner, you see a hood of a cobra. And in the picture, you don't see because of the flash. Even in the chandelier, it's like a head of Medusa. There are snakes all over. And this is the waiting room of Frison. You can see here better. It seems it's like a lattice, or maybe it's just a plant or a flower. But if you look really carefully, you see there are a lot of symbols everywhere. The ceramics, now this is in India, and you can see how similar it is to the ceramics in the Frison house. And this is a technique we still do. It's called block printing. We do in Rajasthan. We make blocks out of wood, and we put them on natural color dyes, tie dyes. And that's why India was very, very rich until the 18th, and even now in textiles, because of the excellence of craftsmanship, of printing, handloom, embroideries that we still have today. You can see the frescoes of all the ceiling, but it was not like this. When I bought, everything was white. So we did a whole stratigraphy with IRPA, Institute Royal of Architecture and Patrimoni, to see that is there frescoes everywhere, and there is no wallpaper in this house. So imagine the amount of budget that was allocated to build something like this to show to everybody what Horta was capable of doing. Again, a little parallel between India and this house. This is called Bauri, stepwell. It goes back to 4th century. Now, this is typically in Rajasthan because it's desert. You have to go deep down to get to water. And it's mathematically, it's like floor between floor. So you have maximum light and you don't feel vertige. And when you see, it's exactly the same what Horta did. It's floor between floor. So there are 8 floors. The house is it goes very high. But it remains a human size because of, as we say, étages entre les étages. But at the same time, they're 4 meters high. So it's quite high. And you can see here, everything is white. So it took 5 months during COVID to scrape off the paint, because during lockdown, what do? You have a lot of time. So I said, I'm going to do this. And of course, I didn't just do it myself like that. Francis Metzger, he saw what I was doing, and I learned the technique of scraping off with the school École Van der Kellen, which is one of the best schools for restoration. And thanks to Sylvie, I learned. And since I worked in the excellence of craftsmanship and jewelry, I had a feeling, I knew how to work with tools. And once you start, you don't stop. It's better than bubbles in the champagne. I promise you. It was incredible. It was like a meditation, and it was Herculean amount of work, because during lockdown, there was no scaffolding. So please don't do it at home. I had put books under the stairs to arrive to the height. So it's a gymnastic total, but yoga helps. But it was crazy. And the result was really, it's beautiful. Now here we see also the flooring in the Frison house, and then we see the flooring. It's the same Venetian marble in India. This is the mosaic of the house. Horta always made beautiful signature with the mosaic. And during full moon, because on the top there is a huge glass, it seems it's alive, because it's this Carrara marble that reflects light, and it feels as if it's a moving cosmos. And if you see in India, we do exactly the same patterns, which is to appreciate the cosmos and the nature. So it's funny that Horta has used these symbols and motifs in the decoration of the house. Now, peacock is an emblematic animal in Art Nouveau. It's also our national bird. And from the Shah of Iran's throne, peacock throne, to jewelry, and how many houses interpreted. This was Millerio, one of the first jewelers in Place Vendôme in Paris, who made this for the Kapurthala family, which is from one of the principality north of India. And you see that, even in our festivals, like Diwali, which is the festival of lumière, of light, we do these rangolis, these beautiful, colorful patterns to appreciate nature and light. You can see that even deep in the villages in India, people have this in their DNA, that they are able to make these beautiful patterns even in their mud houses. Now, this is one of the old picture of the house, and thanks to all these beautiful archives, we were able to see what was before and after. You can see that there is this frescoes going all throughout. Now you can see here it's completely white, and once you start scraping, it's amazing. There is no wallpaper. There are frescoes from down the cellar till the top floor. And what is also incredible is that, when it's white, it's something, and then when you scrape everything off, because it's like over 1,200 meters of scraping, it's enormous. And once you go from one floor to the other, the patterns change. They are not same. So it's really incredible that, it's like the light is following the patterns and everything is becoming very organic. It's like you're dancing with some sort of organic movement. And this was the second house of Horta. So you see the similar pattern that Horta experimented in Maison Tassel. If you see the staircase, it's strikingly similar, because what he was experimenting in Frison, he carried it on in Tassel, which was the third house completed in 1895. So you can see, and there are incredible lines going in every direction. And this was 12 layers of paint, and you have to scrape it off with a scalpel number 20. In the end, I couldn't feel my fingers. And but it was such a revelation in certain way that I felt that, in my own modest, humble way, we are creating a legacy for generations to come. And this beautiful hidden gem is going to be shared with everybody. So we do a lot of things in the foundation. It's a living museum, and why they coined it living museum, because I live in it. It's my home. And that's what makes a huge difference, because it's not cold. You don't say, don't touch, don't sit. You live with everything. My friends, they make joke, we have to classify you, Nupur, now, because it's you're part of the house. You are the house. And there are activities that we do, which makes it also very nice and alive to share with all different ages of people. This is an exposition on Maharanis. And why this exposition? Because it creates that bridge, organic bridge between East and West, what we did in India in the end of the 19th century. And you can see there's been a lot of exchange, through craftsmanship like Baccarat, Val-Salambert, Christoffel, and all sort of craftsmen who were coming to India and working in these palaces. So it was a rich exchange of savoir-faire between East and West. We also have a board of committee experts from the field, and I'm delighted that Juan has joined as well, the committee honor of the board, because the idea is to exchange. We have so much of rich exchange expertise, and that's why we are here today to share all our stories. And you can see as you enter the entrance of the house, everything is white. And you can see a little bit of color there. What is very unique also, there is a pure elegance of harmony in the whole house. Normally, to live in an Art Nouveau house is not easy. It's overwhelming, you get lost. But here, it's utterly chic and elegant, and you see the influence also of Maurice Frison. So Horta adapted himself with the need of each client. He just didn't do whatever he wanted to do. And the ramp you see is a ramp that inspired Hector Guillemin to make the mouth of metro in Paris. So this house is also drenched with a lot of history. I mean, it looks amazingly organic, right? That it's going to come alive. And then you can see, I'll go quick. I hope I'm not taking too much time. And you can see here the statography of the restoration, the before and after, and it's just absolutely beautiful. When we see the color, it's pistache vert, and these are the pictures from before. And the house was in the state. It took almost a year to clean. So I think I'm a very good housemaid. I know every product, what you need to use to clean the house. And which is an important part of the upkeep also, that it's not just, okay, you buy beautiful heritage buildings and then, you have somebody designated and they take care of it. You really have to dig your hands and shoes into the project. Because if you don't, these kind of patrimony is very fragile. It needs constant care and repair. And then you can see the restoration. It's completely different. And for me, it's like so alive. And that's my little daughter. Well, she's little here, but now she's 9 years old. And we do a lot of activities, cultural, musical concerts, conference. And that's what makes it also a living museum. We participate in the Journée du Patrimoine. And this was quite overwhelming because you can see here in the pictures, there were over 2,000 people that visited. And that's a lot. And this made me realize that patrimoine is very fragile. We can't receive mass tourism. And it has to be through appointment. And I changed my thinking, because it's also a learning experience for me, that it should be only by appointment, and I should welcome the visitors, not the tour operators or guide, because nobody can tell the story of the house like I do. And that became, that people started coming from all over. And we do also gastronomy, fun things, mixing Belgian chocolate with Indian spices. And that has been quite a success. We do workshop, we work with schools, primary, secondary, universities, because I think it's very important also to show them that heritage could be fun. It's not boring. It's not just, you have to dive into books for years. And I think academia is fantastic, but real case studies are also very important to really present to the youth, to the younger generation, that these beautiful architecture don't disperse with time. Here I will just show you quickly the furniture that is in the house. We have tonneau, Serie Bovy, Gustav Stroven, Joseph Kuhn, Joseph Hoffman. This is a complete ensemble of Horta. So it's really a time capsule of 19th century, and which has come alive step by step. This is Serie Bovy. And these are photos before the restoration. So I don't want to show too much pictures of how it is today, because I think that's the whole idea, that you all come and visit, and I give you a whole live visit of the house. So these are, I mean, absolutely beautiful pieces of chandeliers, and each one is designed and custom made for each salon. And this one is very Masonic. People think it's very Art Deco, but it's not. There are very, very important symbol of Lodge Philanthrope in this chandelier. And all these pieces of furniture, it took almost over 4 years to restore. It was not in the condition you see it now, but the gentleman who restored the furniture is now 92 years old. He has Alzheimer. And what is very unfortunate is that this excellence has not been transmitted to somebody. And I think this is something we need to address, how to do more and more workshop to sensibilize the youth so they don't completely go into a robotic digital age, but we keep these craftsmanship of hand alive. And you can see these are furniture that was made for the Universal Exposition in Brussels, and now it's in my daughter's room. So the house is reincarnated, restored, preserved, and shared with people. And it's a personal, passionate story. And I'm really, overwhelmed that how much I have grown and learned myself. Because can you imagine when I bought, I didn't know who was Víctor Horta. I'm embarrassed to say that. But now I finished my second book, and after doing the master's, I know the subject a little bit better than before. And it's a privilege to share this with all of you, my modest story. And I will end here. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
So, merci infiniment. Thanks a lot. Infinite thanks for sharing with us your story of life and passion. It was amazing. And now the second duelist, Amelie.
I'm going to use this microphone. I feel attacked by this type of microphones. Sí? Val. Doncs no sabeu el descans que m'acabeu de donar, perquè es converteix en molt més fàcil tot de cop, eh? I li vas fer una mica de traductor, però els textos són en anglès. Primer de tot, agrair a l'organització que hagi pensat en Casa Vicens per compartir aquesta tarda i compartir aquestes idees. Nosaltres ens sentim com a casa aquí al Col·legi d'Arquitectes. De fet, compartim la llibreria que hi ha a la Capell. És la nostra llibreria també. Crec que és la primera vegada que van sortir d'aquest edifici, va ser a Casa Vicens, així que estem aquí com a casa. I us explico una mica la història de Casa Vicens des d'una perspectiva. Em sento com que jugo fora de casa avui, diguéssim, des de la perspectiva d'una mica de negoci d'aquest projecte. Ara això hauria de funcionar. Vale. Aquesta és una mica la cronologia recent, evidentment no la cronologia des de que Gaudí va fer, la cronologia recent del projecte. Al febrer de 2014, Casa Vicens va ser comprat per Morabanc, pels que no sapigueu, un banc andorrà, després en parlaré. Van haver-hi 3 anys entre que es va comprar i es va obrir, tot i que les obres pròpiament dit van ser estrictament 2 anys. Al novembre del 17, en un context a Barcelona que recordareu molt favorable, diguéssim, a obrir una cosa turística, doncs vam obrir. No n'havíem tingut prou en obrir el novembre del 17, que llavors van venir 2 anys de Covid, i el novembre de l'any passat van fer 5 anys. Aquesta és una mica la breu història des que Casa Vicens té el projecte que té ara, diguéssim. Una mica de context. És la primera casa que va fer Gaudí i la primera obra d'una certa entitat, amb tot el carinyo per el que va fer anteriorment, però bàsicament primera casa i primera obra d'una certa entitat. Va ser construïda entre 1883 i 1885 i, tot i que algú ho podrem discutir, però ens agrada pensar que és el punt de començament del modernisme a Catalunya i fins i tot també a nivell d'Europa. Va ser usada, i això és important per la restauració que es va haver de fer, va ser usada com a residència privada des del 85, quan es va acabar l'obra, fins al 2014. És a dir, pràcticament 140 anys usada com a residència amb totes les transformacions i totes les intervencions que s'hi van anar fent durant aquest temps. Com us deia, Casa Vicens és propietat de Morabanc, un banc familiar andorrà, que és centrat en banca privada. Quines implicacions té això? Moltes vegades ens diuen això és obra social, això forma part d'una fundació. No. I ho diem, diguéssim, sense cap mena de complexa. Casa Vicens és un negoci que va emprendre Morabanc. No forma part de l'obra social, no forma part de cap fundació. Van comprar això, en van fer un negoci i els que ho gestionem ara ens demanen uns resultats, però no només uns resultats econòmics. Diguem que resumim el nostre mandat, què ens van encomanar, els gestors ens van dir, mireu, us donem aquesta peça, que no és poca cosa, i heu de fer aquestes dues coses. Rehabilitar i preservar aquest patrimoni per la societat, però també com a part del patrimoni familiar. És a dir, això, jo sempre li dic al director general del banc, jo treballo perquè el teu net segueixi tenint aquesta casa en les mateixes condicions que tu la tens ara. I la segona gran pota d'aquest mandat és que havíem de construir un model de negoci a sobre d'aquesta casa que permetés primer complir la primera part del mandat, preservar-la i que durés 140 o 300 anys més, però a la vegada no oblidar que, diguéssim, tenim unes demandes de retorn econòmic, perquè unes persones van fer una inversió aquí. Llavors, situem-nos al 2017, abans d'obrir, i quina estratègia hem de seguir aquí? Com ho hem de fer? Quin context ens trobem? Cantó esquerre, coses positives, coses bones. Gaudí, una marca, i perdoneu que ho digui d'aquesta manera, però és una marca molt reconeguda a nivell global. Això és innegable. A Barcelona, juntament amb el Barça, pràcticament, no sé quina és la tercera, però hi ha aquestes dues. Barcelona, en si mateixa, també és una marca i un gran destí turístic. Són dades d'abans del Covid. Barcelona rep 12 milions de visitants. I la tercera gran atractiu, el tercer gran aspecte positiu que podíem tenir en compte a l'hora de dissenyar la nostra estratègia, que és una casa que no havia estat ensenyada al públic fins llavors. És el gran desconegut i al final tant els visitants locals com els visitants estrangers tenim un cert gust, un cert apetito, si em permeteu l'expressió, per les coses que són noves. A l'altre cantó de la balança, quins aspectes eren una dificultat o quins problemes ens podíem trobar? A diferència dels altres monuments de Gaudí, no estem al centre de la ciutat, no és un lloc on hi passis per casualitat. Si vols anar a Casa Vicens, hi has d'anar. I això, és un hàndicap, òbviament. Casa Vicens, Gaudí és una marca molt coneguda, però Casa Vicens no. Llavors havíem de construir aquesta marca i això, ja anticipo que és una mica el baix continu que hem seguit durant tot aquest temps. Necessitàvem construir aquesta marca. Un entorn molt competitiu. Si pensem que el nostre mercat, tot i que no és, en stricto sensus no té per què ser així, però si pensem en els monuments de Gaudí, tenim monuments molt grans, amb una gran trajectòria i amb un gran pressupost. No era el nostre cas. Llavors, això, posicionar aquesta visita en un entorn molt competitiu no era fàcil. I una darrera qüestió, que això potser és una mica més tècnica, més de negoci, però que els que hem estat gestionant això ho hem patit especialment durant aquests darrers anys, gestionar una casa-museu, si tinc un visitant o n'hi tinc 1.000, els costos pràcticament són els mateixos. Us podeu imaginar una estació d'esquí o un parc d'atraccions. Al final, obrir la persiana costa tant i aquest tant canvia molt poquet si tens més o menys visitants. Això, quan ja has cobert els costos, és meravellós, perquè cada visitant que tens doncs va directe a la butxaca. Però quan estàs per sota, vol dir que tinguis molts... Quan encara estàs pujant, costa molt arribar a aquell punt del punt mort i cobrir tots els costos. Bueno, això era una dificultat afegida. Quina estratègia vam seguir? I sé que el que diré ara potser sona una mica clixé o sona una mica estereotip, però amb les següents slides intentaré convèncer-vos que, a part de ser un estereotip, doncs ho hem portat humilment a la realitat. Tenim una casa petita, amb una capacitat petita. Penseu que Casa Batlló, la Sagrada Família, es mouen en xifres que són 5 vegades o 20 vegades amb visitants superiors o amb capacitats a les nostres. O sigui, perquè ens fem una idea de la dimensió. Llavors, també, pel que us deia de competidors amb grans pressupostos i molt consolidats i amb una gran capacitat, diguéssim, aquests espais necessiten volums alts per poder funcionar. Nosaltres, no és que no ens agradaria, però no hi caben. És una qüestió física, no? Doncs no podíem centrar una estratègia en volum, perquè no pot ser, perquè no hi caben, ni en grans inversions en posicionar la marca, en publicitat, perquè no genera els propis recursos per fer això. Tinc a la pila aquí el públic que treballa comunicació a Casa Vicens. Diguéssim, no ens podem permetre posar segons quins cartells a l'aeroport publicitant Casa Vicens. Directament no ens ho podem permetre. Llavors, quan poses tot això a la coctelera, què surt? I aquí és on ve el clixé, que ara intentaré convèncer-vos que vivim, que honrem el clixé. Només ens queda la qualitat. Només ens queda que el visitant que vingui surti satisfet i parli bé de nosaltres. I anem construint la bola, que vagi creixent, la bola de neu. Qualitat, això ho diu tothom, ningú diu no, jo a la qualitat no m'hi centro, no? No trobaràs ningú que et digui que no es centra en la qualitat. Què vol dir la qualitat per nosaltres a Casa Vicens? Podríem dir més coses, però bàsicament entenem que són aquestes 4 coses. Fer una visita on no tinguis temps màxims d'estar, pots estar 20 minuts o pots estar 4 hores, i no tens recorregut establert. Pots estar allà, deambular tota l'estona que vulguis. Avui en dia els museus, no només en Gaudí, a tot el món, especialment les cases museus, hi ha el gran debat sobre quin rol ha de tenir la tecnologia, el tema digital, en l'experiència que té el visitant en una casa. Doncs nosaltres, tot i que evidentment en fem ús, perquè vivim al segle XXI, doncs, ens enorgullim i posem l'èmfasi en el contacte humà. Diguéssim que qui t'atengui, aquí era l'Albert, doncs que l'Albert t'atengui. Que tu, quan truques a Casa Vicens perquè vols comprar una entrada, t'atengui una persona, no una màquina. Màxim rigor en la restauració, en la rehabilitació i en el discurs museogràfic. Nosaltres no vam tenir la sort que va tenir la Nupur. Nosaltres, quan vam adquirir la casa, no hi havia mobles originals. Hi havia molts mobles que s'havien posat al llarg de 140 anys, però no teníem mobles originals. Què podríem haver fet? Posar mobles posteriors o mobles d'aquella època, mobles sense saber del cert si hi eren o no hi eren al moment que Gaudí va fer la casa. Quin va ser l'alternativa dels que van crear, que no vaig ser jo, diguéssim, el discurs museogràfic? Si no teníem la certesa que allò estava en el moment en què Gaudí va fer aquesta casa, sortirà de Casa Vicens. Conclusió, no hi ha ni un moble. I això és una cosa que ens critiquen moltes vegades quan els visitants diuen, hosti, com és que no teniu mobles? És que la casa està buida, és que no tenim la certesa. Fins i tot hem arribat a treure algunes làmpades que eren maques, molt maques, però que eren molt posteriors. I al final, per ser, diguéssim, per honrar, diguéssim, el criteri, doncs vam decidir treure-ho. I llavors, pensant en el visitant, que moltes vegades la gent visita i acaba més estressat que quan el que estàs fent a casa, doncs intentem ser un oasi de calma al mig de la ciutat. Intentem que la visita sigui pausada, sigui calmada i que sigui refrescant. I aquests, una mica com al nostre entendre, com vivim la qualitat que us mencionava abans. Val? Amb l'expectativa que l'experiència que té el visitant faci que parli bé de Casa Vicens i acabi ell un altre cop o el seu entorn acabi tornant. I com intentem aquí sí potenciar aquest bon discurs sobre Casa Vicens? Doncs això és un fulletó promocional que es van fer amb tot de fotos que havien fet visitants de Casa Vicens. La Pilar va agafar l'Instagram dels Instagrams dels nostres visitants, buscar fotos especialment magues, els demanava permís, òbviament, i van configurar aquest fulletó. Això, que pot semblar una trivialitat, representa una mica la nostra estratègia comercial, si voleu, no? Que és dir que l'altaveu, que el prescriptor de Casa Vicens acabi sent el propi visitant. I al final, diguéssim, a part d'intentar haver-vos convençut de que vivíem la qualitat d'aquesta manera, ha de donar. I aquesta és l'evolució de visitants que hem tingut en els darrers 5 anys. Es veu l'afectació del Covid, però són 127.000 visitants l'any passat, el primer any van ser 122.000, estem satisfets, estem en les expectatives i de moment sembla que els visitants, que el públic respon i aprecia, diguéssim, aquest enfoc que li estem donant. I la meva presentació és més breu, així que la deixo aquí, però ara estarem contents de debatre.
Aquesta altra història. Sí? Sí? Vale. Doncs gràcies, Emili, com deia, per aquesta altra història, també de passió. I was saying thanks to Emili also for this passion history of his works. Ara passem a la segona part, la part de competició, la part de duel, el combat entre els dos duelistes i, com he dit abans, consistirà en la formulació de 3 preguntes per part de cadascú cap a l'altre i això és el que ens generarà amb les seves respostes el debat. Atenció a l'àrbitre i jutge d'aquest combat que no sé si declararà un guanyador o no al final, però com a mínim és un exequo previ, està claríssim, però com a mínim podrà fer un esbós de conclusions d'aquest combat. So now it's the second part, it's the combat part of the duel. So I'm going to ask you to make 3 questions to your opponent. And our referee is going to be looking at you and going to be judging you. And he's going to make a final resume of your intervention. So I propose Emily to ask the 3 questions to Nupur at first, then you answer and you have the opportunity of formulating the 3 questions.
Great. Following my last point about how museums or house museums use technology, digital, all this arena. So what is your approach in this regard?
I think it's a very important tool, and it's a tool that everybody can hear me? Yes.
Sí. Al fil d'una de les meves darreres frases li he preguntat que quin rol o quin paper té a Maison Frison la tecnologia, les solucions digitals en la visita que tenen.
I think it's a very important tool. It's inevitable. When the house was built, it was industrial revolution. And today we are living in a transhuman revolution. So digital tools and gadgets are important for any intervention, I think. And certainly in the restoration of Foundation Frison Horta, we used also photogrammetry, which is a very important tool for seeing the whole skeleton and 3D structure of the house, which helps you if the site is in a bad state and you need to rebuild or reconstitute or restitute, and see what methodology you will use. So for restoration, it's a very important tool. But I don't think so. I'm still agree that it should be a digital visit, because it's a human story. It's a story of something which was built by hands, by passion, with love, with a lot of excellence and hardship. You know, Horta was a perfectionist, and he's written in his memoir, and the artisan that worked for him, they had a burnout. So much so that it cost Horta his first marriage. He divorced at that time. That is quite a taboo. So he was really, you know, so much dedicated to build these beautiful monuments, which is the same for Gaudí or for any other architect. But I think it's important when you tell the story of a house which was built, and I'm talking specially because the subject is about houses today. It should be told in human story, with humanness. I had many people come from, you know, we have a faculty coming from Yale University next month. And sometimes, you know, I think it's great, it's important, but Americans, they sometimes go too ahead, you know, and everything becomes very digital. And why not give a visit that is an avatar of Nupur and giving, you know, and I was like, oh my goodness, you know, not in my lifetime. Because I very much like this Nupur to do the work and transmit this passion. Because no AI tool can have this consciousness, this living consciousness. And these houses are living entities. I feel that every day, that no matter what part of the world I'm traveling, when I come back home, it's lovely. It's wonderful. Even if it's in a ruin, even if I was under layers of paint, I didn't wash my hair for weeks, but it was the most beautiful moment of my life because it was something very human. I will never forget that. My daughter saw that, and she was only 3 years old when I bought this house. So it's in her DNA as well, which is very important, that as we grow, that we have to also involve the people who live in the house, you know, which is a complete different perspective than yours, Emil, because in Casa Vicens, it's become now, I think what I see with your presentation is sharing a part of history with maximum people to sensibilize it. And for that, you need digital tools, of course. But if you are living in a home and it's a living entity where you receive people, you do all sorts of, it's important that you remain a biological, you know, quand même, maîtresse de maison. So if that answers your question.
Perfect.
No, bàsicament, les que evidentment tenen tots els recursos informàtics, tots els recursos tecnològics. Vivim una revolució tecnològica en aquests moments i efectivament els fan servir i evidentment els fan servir, però insisteix sobre el fet que la dimensió humana no pot substituir-se per cap intel·ligència artificial. La vivència, l'experiència que ella té de la casa és la que la casa o la visita intenta transmetre als visitants. Llavors, sí, però.
So my second question?
Your second question.
My second question. So if I remember well, you had like 3 words like underlying the...
Improvisem. We change.
Sí, més. Okay.
You want me to? Okay. Well, I have many, but I'll ask them later. But my first question is, what was the biggest challenge in this acquisition? And did you know exactly what you were getting into?
Short answer, no.
No.
No. It's very, so no matter what preliminary studies you do, no matter how many experts you bring to the house to look at it, it's a black box. So I was so relieved the architect finalized the work, so it's done. So and nothing had fallen, so everything was okay, and we were ready to start. So it was a great relief. It was a great relief that our budget did not skyrocket as well, because that's one of the dangers as well. But we were commenting this before. So this type of projects, no matter it's on a foundational aspect or on a business side, if you look at it purely logically, purely from the numbers perspective, you would not do it. So so there needs to be something more. In my case, it was not me, but there was a visionary in the bank that saw that this was a great idea, both from the patrimony perspective as well as from a business perspective. I always try to emphasize this. We don't see that as a dichotomy, and otherwise we would be dead as a project. So for us, and this is one of the emphasis I put every day, that for us it's not a dichotomy. So that visionary in the bank saw that Casa Vicens could serve both objectives, but we bought it, and things started to happen. And so it was many of you will know the work that was done in Casa Vicens. It was a major work. So, and I still remember, you guys might not be impressed by that, but on the part that is not Serra, the extension, Serra Martínez, the part that is not originally from Gaudí, the architects decided to empty the whole thing from inside just to keep the facades. And you guys might sleep well doing that, but I was not sleeping when I was seeing the whole there. So the walls are not falling, so I was not sleeping well those days. But and we didn't know what was. So the whole story of what was going there. And if you look at it from a purely logical perspective, you would not do it.
So do you have any regrets? Honestly, I ask this because from my perspective, just to, it's a question with a question. This very Indian. It was my mother, everybody thought I was mad. And so much so that it was like, don't you expect anything coming from any one of us? I said, that I know since I was 16. But it was a tough decision, and I had to really think that, is it worth it? And for me, it was so important. It was like, this is your life mission. It was like an enlightenment. It lives with me every day. It grows with me every day. I have absolutely no regrets. I would do it in a heartbeat again. Was it the same for you?
So,
because from a banking perspective, you're more rational than I am.
Yeah, and like your case, probably there were many people involved in the decision. I would say many people have not seen this project like with good eyes for a long time, but they started to see as a good project now. So I fought all these years that I've been managing Casa Vicens. I firmly believe that it was a great project, both from an architectural perspective and from a business perspective. And now we're starting to see the results, both economical and in terms of reputation, in terms of patrimony. So I've never had regrets nor doubts that this was going to be a great project. And I would say, I mean, they saw it as a mad. Many people saw it as a mad project.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a no-brainer. It was actually an easy decision. You need to be mad not to buy a Gaudí's house if you have the chance to do it. I mean, I didn't do it because I didn't have the money. But I would buy it blindfolded now if I had the money to buy it from my bank. Yeah. So if you ever have the chance and the money to buy a house from Gaudí, just buy it in Barcelona. I mean, it's like crazy not doing that.
Yeah.
So I never had any doubts. It could take more years or less years. If you just extract the years from COVID, so the level we need to make the business sustainable is the number of visitors we got last year. Mm-hmm. So if we didn't have COVID, we would have reached that level in just 3 years. So, and it has nothing to do that me or my teams are better or worse, because we have like one of the best known architects in the world in a city that receives 12 million visitors per year. You need, not easy, but yeah, it's more difficult. I mean, and that might sound like a little bit like I have a high regards of my management, but I try my management style. I try not to make mistakes, rather to make good choices. So if we don't make mistakes, that's gonna fly. So we just need to make no mistakes. So we are in a wave that goes fast. Gaudí, Barcelona. So if we don't make mistakes, this is a project that's gonna last decades.
I think now it's your turn to ask.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, you're right. So that's many people. So I said that I don't see it as a dichotomy or as a trade-off between sharing with a lot of people or the business side with the restoration, rehabilitation. So do you face this dichotomy in your head, or the people around you telling you that? So do you feel the need to justify yourself, or how do you manage this dichotomy? In Barcelona, we have this dichotomy in terms of public opinion, number of visitors, quality. So how do you approach this difficult dichotomy?
Well,
also in terms of preservation. Obviously, preserving a house, it's more difficult if you receive 100,000 visitors than if you receive 10,000 visitors.
Yeah, well, it starts early in the morning.
Sorry, they asked me to translate. So, el que li vull preguntar, tot i que nosaltres, o des de la nostra perspectiva, no ho vivim com una gran dicotomia o com una gran disjuntiva entre la dimensió de negoci i la dimensió patrimonial de preservació, és cert que és una pregunta que et fan, una dicotomia que tens moltes vegades, no? O que et presenten moltes vegades. I li he preguntat com la viu ella o en el seu entorn com la respon, bàsicament.
So it starts quite early in the morning, because if you go on the website, it says 9:30 to 5:30. And we are in a place which is very touristically vibrant, Sablon. So now we are used to it, but in the beginning, the bell will ring, and we are like, okay, I don't have an appointment now, and who is this? And we open, and then people, there is a group of people, visitors, and they say, you're open. I said, yes, how can I help you? Okay, so we are 8 number of people, and we would like to visit now. I said, I'm so sorry, but you have to make a reservation. What kind of a museum is this? People don't realize that it's a private house. It's a private foundation. And when you explain them, they just, it's like they come down and they apologize, and they feel really guilty and bad, because here they come like, with this arrogance, how dare you not open at 9:30, and, this is our public tax money. And when they realize that it's private, it changes completely. This has started to simmer down a bit, because we have become now a bit case study as a living museum, because a family lives in it, and these houses were built to live. That is a huge difference. So I tell, my friend Benjamin, who is the curator of Museum Horta, that you're having 65,000 visitors a year. This house cannot sustain this number of visitors. It is organic. If you see, it's wood. Everything will. It's really at risk. And I think this is something we need to keep in mind, that, of course, you need to share your story with maximum number of people. And here, digital intervention comes very handy, because during COVID, I did a lot of Zoom conferences and visits with many different foundations and museums across, and it was great, and that boosted the number of projects that I would like to do. with institutions, with universities, with cultural heritage sites. So for me, it's a bit different because the fact that it's a home also and it's a private home, people understand that eventually. In the beginning, they don't because they don't know. But once you explain them and once they get to know the story of the pain it takes to restore and preserve and then share. I mean, I could also make the choice. I just keep it for myself. Mm-hmm. But I didn't. I made this conscious choice because I knew that, first the story of India was a missing link in this house. And then it's the house that chose me. It's also quite unique in a way. So it's important that, we restore and preserve these heritage by not allowing too many people, because it's really fragile, and especially Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau is built with the best craftsmanship. And if you see just the glass work, it's like, I don't know, less than 2 or 3 millimeter in size, and it's like a jewel. So it's important to keep all those aspects in mind and share with. So my strategy is working a lot with the younger generation, because how can I sensibilize the youth? And I learn a lot from my daughter. So recently she did a visit with her class. She's 9 years old. And she's asking me, Maurice Frison, Mama, he died in 1938. I said, how do you know? She said, because I listened to you, So it's great that once, you have children listening and living with it, they are really clever. They are like sponge. They grasp so much. And now I'm doing workshops with kids, because I think this is very important, the next generation, who's going to carry this relay. And not just, people who are passionate about culture and heritage, but very important is also the youngsters. Yes.
So I ask you to make your last question.
Okay.
So, Emily, a question that you can answer in 2, let's say 3 seconds.
Oh my goodness.
That's two challenges.
I have to rephrase my question then. No. So what is the future for Casa Vicens in the next 10 years? How do you foresee?
In just 2 sentences, right? No, actually, it's a very easy question. We expect to do more or less what we do today. No big changes. So, and if you allow me one last sentence, and that goes back to the digital discussion, so we are lucky to be working with something that was done 140 years ago. Why do we need to change it? So my expectation is just to explain a little bit better every day what you can find there. But what you're going to find there, it's basically the same. Fair enough?
Now our referee.
Bé, jo crec que una de les coses que va tenir un gran encert el premi en triar aquests 2 casos és perquè de sortida pot semblar que siguin 2 projectes totalment diferents, però jo crec que el missatge que tots 2 transmeten és exactament el mateix. Llavors, voldria, si pot ser, ensenyar la presentació de l'Emili, la 5ª o la 6ª, on deies aquells 5 o 6 objectius. Una mica més endarrere. Aquesta. La següent? Aquesta. Nupur, do you think that all these aspects that Emily has shown us are more or less the same of your idea of how to explain your house?
My approach is more personal. So there it is a big difference. But I think the methodology is quite parallel. Yes. And since this is Art Nouveau, and Gaudí is the father of Art Nouveau here in Spain, and so is Horta in Belgium, so there are historically deep parallels between the two, and also the art of this total art that you live around with. So there are definitely deep parallels, I would say. but the way of doing is different because it's more economical approach in terms of Emily, and I understand that because the idea is to sensibilize maximum of people, have them visit and appreciate this beautiful heritage that was the first house of Gaudí. In my case, it's a bit different, which I explained earlier also, that since I live in the house, it's important that people get attached to the story of restoration, preservation, and sharing. So my intervention is more strongly on that attachment, on the bond that I create with my visitors, which is more personal.
Yeah, but I ask you that because I think that Emily has a very big challenge when it begins this project, to say to the owners the idea that you have been transmitted just now. Because I know that it was a bank and they want to
return on investment.
Yeah. But to do that, first of all, it's a sentence that Emily has just said that why you don't buy a Gaudí house? And I think that's the values of this building that you know exactly on your case is exactly the idea of Emily has to explain to the owners.
Exactly. And I think it's a huge responsibility on us to sensibilize the future, the youth, because they should not be challenged. They should see it that they are being part of this beautiful history of restoring something which is their identity, which is their culture, which is their tradition. And I think this needs to be transmitted through beautiful examples like the work you guys have done. And I think that is commendable to restore something like this. If Horta and Gaudí are watching us, I think they'll be very happy right now.
I si podem fer una transparència endarrere.
Això ho controlen més des
de... On hi havia la balança, on hi havia la balança entre els diners, no? I la rehabilitació.
Això?
Sí, exacte. Aquests dos valors que vosaltres vau haver de lluitar, no? Per defensar-los els dos alhora, ja sé que és una pregunta molt difícil, però de quina manera la propietat entén que aquests dos valors que poses en el mateix nivell estan en el mateix nivell?
Aquesta és la, diguéssim, la pedra angular diria, de la manera com gestionem Casa Vicens o com intentem gestionar Casa Vicens. No només al principi, sinó ara també, la tentació de dir fot-li més gas. Això hi serà sempre. Quan encara estàvem per sota del punt mort i quan estem per sobre, no? Llavors, i això el meu consell ho entén, i jo ho entenc, diguéssim, perquè ho patrocino, diguéssim, però diguéssim, i nosaltres ho vivim i el consell ho entén, però aquesta tentació sempre hi és. I llavors, jo com vesteixo aquest argument, i això és vàlid per Casa Vicens, és vàlid per Barcelona, és vàlid per moltes marques, o sigui, al final és un tema d'horitzó, d'horitzó temporal. Si tu em dius el teu horitzó és un any o dos, fot-li gas. Perquè les conseqüències són a llarg plaç o a mig plaç. I les bones econòmiques són a curt plaç, les dolentes també econòmiques són a llarg plaç. Llavors, la meva feina o la meva línia argumental és dir, si volem construir un valor a llarg plaç, no sacrifiquem un punt extra als dos propers anys perquè això et passarà factura a llarg plaç. I és per això que a llarg plaç, en el meu entendre, no estem parlant d'una dicotomia. Perquè en el llarg plaç s'ajunten les dues coses. Si tu el discurs que fas i el vius, no només el dius, sinó que el fas, tot i que tingui un petit sacrifici a curt plaç, té un benefici a llarg plaç, desapareix la dicotomia, desapareix la disjuntiva. I això és el que intento vendre, diguéssim, constantment, i me'l compren, el discurs, diguéssim, intento vendre internament i a cada oportunitat que tinc de parlar el faig, perquè crec, i aquí també, amb tota la humilitat del món, des de Casa Vicens sempre han volgut, diguéssim, aportar una manera, potser diferent, amb alguns matisos de com la Barcelona, que estem sempre debatent, no sé què, doncs una mica com aportar la nostra opinió, el nostre enfoc, no? I llavors jo rebutjo molt aquesta falsa dicotomia, al meu entendre, sempre que, diguéssim, tinguis l'horitzó a llarg plaç, perquè llavors es fusionen. És que és una mica zen, diguéssim, no? Però crec que es fusionen això i és més fàcil. No sé si...
Doncs, moltíssimes gràcies. M'encanten els duels. Hi ha dos guanyadors. A mi m'apassionaria seguir, com m'imagino tots vosaltres, amb aquest debat, perquè la veritat és que el que heu explicat des de punts de vista diferents, però en el fons crec que tots estem d'acord, no?, amb el que diu el nostre àrbitre. En el fons, els principis estan allà i són els mateixos. Thanks a lot. I love combats with two winners. Unfortunately, we must stop here the debate, lack of time. I passem a la segona part de l'acte d'avui, que serà ràpida també, que és la presentació del llibre, la presentació del catàleg de la 5a edició del Premi Europeu Architectural Heritage International, amb el Marc Marzano, membre de...
Membre, no,
Director, codirector, com jo, del Premi.
Bé, bona tarda. Ara sí, ara sí. Bueno, bona tarda, deia. Moltes gràcies a tots per venir. 5 cèntims molt ràpids d'aquesta última edició, 6a, que acabem de tancar i que us voldria recordar... Us voldria recordar que el dia 1 de juny és la cerimònia d'entrega del premi. La cerimònia que el lloc que hem triat aquest any, que és Any Domènec i Montaner, el farem al recinte Sant Pau. D'acord? No ho farem aquí al col·legi, ho farem al recinte. Començarà a les 6 de la tarda i hi haurà tota una sèrie una ponència magistral, segurament, i la sessió del jurat on explicarà el panorama d'aquesta edició, la 6a, i després la cerimònia que molts de vosaltres ja coneixeu i heu viscut. En tot cas, deixeu-me fer 5 cèntims de la participació aquest any. Aquí ho teniu en pantalla, 241 projectes presentats. Destacar que hi ha molts participants nous que no repeteixen, per això nosaltres és important, i veieu a baix com es classifiquen segons les categories. Patrimoni construït és la més gran, sempre ha estat així en els 12 anys que portem 6 edicions. Espais exteriors el segueix ben de prop i aquest any ha pujat el disclosure, la difusió, mentre que el planejament sempre costa més, també són processos molt més llargs els de planejament i també costa més que els urbanistes entenguin això del patrimoni i el planejament. Però bueno, és un tema que lluitem i que no traurem i que seguirem allà. Bé, 6 edicions, teniu en oberta al web del Premi eu-architecturalheritage.org, teniu 1.300 projectes en obert a la pestanya d'arxiu de 37 països del territori europeu. Per tant, jo crec que aquesta feina que fem i que la fem de tot grat és, al final, una base de dades oberta en la qual es veu tot el panorama i tots aquests 12 anys de projectes d'intervenció en el patrimoni. Ja està. Això a nivell de la 6a edició. La 5a fa 2 anys. Fèiem els 10 anys. Vam canviar la imatge gràfica del web, de les presentacions i del llibre. Recordeu que teníem un llibre molt més clàssic, ens hem posat una mica modernos i hem fet un llibre que realment està molt ben explicat tot, ens agrada molt i aquells que veu participar a la 5a edició el podeu recollir en allà. Els que no i us interessi, és molt probable que el posem a la venda a baix a la Capell. Veurem quina disponibilitat tenim finalment. Agrair a l'Emili i a la Nurut l'acte d'avui. Ha estat un plaer per nosaltres, espero que per vosaltres, i simplement animar-los, els dos, que des de la Fundació i des de Casa Vicens, que en el fons són dues famílies, doncs, home, que es donguin la mà i que facin xarxa, no? I que potser un visitant del Japó, a Japan visitor, can go to Vicens and then Vicens say, you must go to Frison. No? And the other way also. Maybe this American people is coming from Yale, are coming to Brussels. In the next month, you have to say, you have to visit Casa Vicens.
I will absolutely do that.
Right. Gràcies.
Agrair també al col·legi per recollir-nos sempre, a tothom que organitza això, al Joan per deixar-se enredar, com sempre. I l'any que ve ja veurem què ens inventem. Maybe next year, see you all in Brussels.
Wonderful.